What he took a picture of that so that we can so that like because what we're gonna do is add it in after.
No, I can do better.
What's that?
I
You got the original.
I can. We've scanned it, and there are other images I can give you that you might want to use.
Yeah.
And I can do that tonight.
Okay.
Or later on this afternoon.
Well, what?
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
Us talking to the actual thing.
It would, and we're off to the races. We're dropping it in the water, literally. We are at the Packard Proving Grounds. I'm just Charles. I'm pretty excited.
We're thrilled. I'm totally thrilled. This is awesome.
So yeah, it's we're at the Packard Proving Grounds, and we've been telling the story of Gar Woods. And just Miss America, the Miss Detroits, and then the Miss Americas, and then Miss America 9 last week was just, it was so much we had to break it into 2 episodes.
We had to break it into our show went about 2 hours, so we had to break it up into 2.
It did. It was great. And which leads us to the next portion of our story with Gar Woods, and that is the Miss America 10. And lo and behold, it's just about 10 miles away from where we were recording.
Yeah. So we finished up with the Miss America 9.
Yeah.
And we'd already been building this, sort of suspense from the beginning. I already talked about how the Miss America 10 was going to be such a big deal. And we, why not go to the Miss America 10 and have it as a backdrop while we're talking about it.
And it's here, and it's magnificent. And there's just we're gonna take a tour around and look at all the Packards here. We are at the Packard Proving Grounds, and with us before we get into Gar Wood and the Miss America story, we're gonna get the story of the Packard Proving Grounds.
Yeah, what a great opportunity to show a whole new, something I do not, and I will admit right now that. My knowledge of Packard and the Packard, Proving Grounds and the factory and everything is subpar. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
It's not by any means in my realm of expertise, but we have a man here who he's got the Packard jacket on.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
He's ready. Like he's already been talking to us before, and I am guaranteeing you right now that this man we'll have plenty of information about Packard for us.
The interesting thing about the Packard Proving Grounds here is I think there's like about 3 employees, and everybody else is a volunteer. There's only just a handful of full-time employees, and everyone else volunteers. And our guest here is one of those amazing volunteers that comes in and helps and keeps this place alive. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Roger Luksik. I'm the immediate past president of the Packard Motor Car Foundation, the owner of the Packard Proving Grounds.
Okay. And how many do you have a Packard yourself?
I have one. My wife has one.
Okay.
Nice.
Right on.
What do you
got?
Both are 1941s.
Okay.
Mine is one of 65 ever built. And it's the last year Packard made a 4-door convertible. 1941, has a Super 8 engine in it. My wife drives a 1941 business coupe. It's French silver over Laguna maroon, and she just loves that little car.
That's awesome.
Jamie, Charles, I'm so glad you guys could make the trip out to see us.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. We drove in here. We're going to show some, we're going to put some video, some clips, some photos at least.
Yeah, because you're going to
the intro. If you've not been out here and you're a fan of the show, you're listening, you're watching this.
Yeah, you
have absolutely got to come out here. The architecture is unbelievable. The ambiance around here, this is Detroit, man. Yeah, this is, you cannot, if you've not been out here, you need to come.
So Roger, before we get into what is here,
sure,
give us a little bit of the history of the Proving Grounds themselves. We are on Van Dyke. We're north of M59 by about 5 miles or so.
Yes, you're in between 22 and 23 mile road, and we're exactly midway at 22 and a half on the west side of Van Dyke. And at one point in time, when Packard opened the Proving Grounds on Flag Day, June 14th, and had a big grand opening ribbon cutting party, This was out in the sticks.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
was
yeah.
600 acres
This was
in
up north.
size. Oh, absolutely. It was a square mile.
Okay.
Went from 22 to 23, Van Dyke to Mound.
Okay.
And it contained a 2.5 mile high-speed oval test track.
Nice.
18 miles of badland roads, including water pits, sand pits, clay pits, steep hills, descends through sand. It was a place that Packard wanted to wring out all of the problems of a Packard so that a customer had a high quality car when it was delivered to them.
And that's what we were like kind of talking about before, like, before we even started the show, was like, when you hear, we're at the Packard Proving Grounds. I guess I thought that it was like a place to kind of, I guess just kind of test out some new vehicles or whatever. But I didn't realize the type of beating when they say test out a vehicle.
Yeah.
This is taking the idea of testing a vehicle to its ultimate, zenith. Like they're explaining just for say about just what kind of a beating they would put these cars through. I mean, it's a big oval track, and you can see the photos we're going to put up on the picture.
Average mileage of a driver in the mid 30s was less than 8,000 miles.
Okay.
Packard routine test is 10,000 miles in 10 days.
Whoa.
25,000 miles in 25 days. And this would go round the clock, day and night, 24/7.
So it's this huge oval track, and they're just running these cars 24/7 hard every single day.
And then they take them off, put them through the 18 miles of badland roads, over Belgian blocks, rough paving bricks, railroad ties, rutted roads, dirt roads, gravel roads.
Your job is just to beat these things all day and all night. And then when one driver's tired or whatever, they pull them out and stick another driver in, and he's got to beat that car to death. Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
And this continued throughout Packard's history. They were setting world's records of endurance in cars. In the mid 30s, 1936 model came out, and they wanted to prove how good that car was going to be. And because it was new to the market, and they put on 15,000 miles at an average speed of 88 miles an hour and this is with a stock car.
Yeah.
And in the 50s, they're driving cars 25,000 miles at an average speed of 105 miles an hour.
Wow.
Including pit stops, tire changes, gassed up.
Whoa.
Rolling all the time.
And what's cool is that this complex is set up Jamie's going to put some pictures on the screen showing it.
Yeah.
But it's set up where there's living quarters and like bunkhouses all over the place, and they're beautiful. You saw
they're nicer than bunkhouses.
Well, I'm just saying the style where you've got a ton of room for each person's got their own. Yeah, you're right. Bunkhouse. But it's set up to have large numbers of people.
Absolutely.
Here so that they can people can. I mean, it's a whole facility for cooking, eating. I mean, this is a whole place. People got to live here while they're testing these things every single day.
Major buildings, when you first roll up to the Packard Proving Grounds, are
gorgeous.
First of all, you should know that our entire campus of buildings, except the one we're in right now, and I'll explain later, were all designed by Albert Kahn. So we're working with folks from the Albert Kahn Foundation to keep our history and authenticity of restoration accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And in our first building you come to is the gatehouse. And in that building, the chief test engineer, his family lived out here 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the second floor, there were bed and breakfast rooms, so to speak.
See, that's a nice way to put it.
Yeah,
you're right. The bunkhouses. I feel bad now. It wasn't. I think in bunkhouses because of some other project I'm working on. But they're way. Especially Albert Kahn is not. You don't call Albert Kahn and go, "Hey, Albert, we need to have some bunkhouses."
No, you don't need that
for a cabin.
When you're working for Packard, you're
top of the line.
Top of the line. So you're going to get a nice bed and breakfast room. And then there was also a room up there for the guys to sit back and have a cognac after work or brandy after work and a cigar. And those engineers then monitored all the tests that were going on. And the second building is, today we use it as an events building where we rent it out for corporate events, weddings, and that. And that is our main income generator, and the profits from that give us the money to restore more and more of the Packard Proving Grounds every year.
Because people want the brides look by DJ weddings and parties, and available for your bar mitzvah. No, actually never done a bar mitzvah, but I've been doing weddings for like 30 years, and brides, it's a new, probably in the last 10 years, have been really looking for unique venues. They're tired of the same old, wedding halls, just, and they're tired of just and so they want to do it in a unique place. And I see brides going crazy for this.
Oh,
place.
this place, it's unbelievable. That hall is just, I haven't even looked in it yet, but the exterior, you're looking at it going, this is like one of the coolest places.
Yeah.
I've had young brides come to me or the bridesmaid and say, my friend got married here. I got to get married here.
Yeah.
And I asked him, this was a number of years ago, why don't you want to go to your dad's country club?
Yeah.
No, don't want that. No, this is our style. And some people like barn weddings. Some people like the urban atmosphere. But out here, we have an industrial urban atmosphere. We have the car collection. We've got history to tell. And we've got plenty of room for parking for the brides, their guests. And it's out in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Just like Packard hid this place out here.
Yep.
In what was Utica, Michigan, to keep the prying eyes away when prototype cars were being tested.
Yeah.
So you get that same ambiance.
Yeah, you do. And that was the thing we noticed, we're like, I was coming from getting some done with my car down the street, and you're coming down, Van Dyke, and it's like this heavily commercialized area. And Jamie's like, oh yeah, we're going to take a left right in here. I'm like, it just seemed, I'm like, this is where it's at, and you take a left in, and it's like it's almost like it's so
right.
It's like all of a sudden you turn into history. Like you go from the heavily like commercialized zone where it's like you just kind of pass it on the street, almost don't even notice it's here. Yeah. And once you turn into it, you're like back. This is Albert Kahn buildings. We're in Detroit history. Like this is we are drenched in nostalgia right now.
I always say knee deep. And if you notice when you drove up, all the commercial that's new is pushed up right up against Van Dyke.
Yeah.
We're set back.
Exactly.
Nice front yard.
Oh, absolutely.
Several acres of front yard.
Yeah.
And this is what Packard wanted. They're, not only they're building quality automobiles, but they want their customers to know where their cars were tested.
Yeah.
They want to have parties out here for their salesmen. They want to have new model introductions out here.
Oh, nice.
And they did that throughout their history.
Yeah.
When Packard had its 50th anniversary in 1949, all the cars were painted gold in a series, and people would come here, take a train from St. Louis, Omaha, wherever with your salesman, and you would jump in your brand new anniversary gold Packard and drive home back to Omaha.
Wow. But see, that's to say.
So it was also used for corporate functions too.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost brings a tear to your eye. I mean, like that's like nostalgic Detroit right there. Just bringing the automobile into it. The parties out here, the fact that the buildings are still here to actually celebrate into, that they actually use those buildings to celebrate, and that those parties were there. It wasn't just some, place you just, beat up with some cars. This was like this was an actual place that they used for celebrations, just like you can use it today for celebration.
Well, we do. So what else do we need to know about the history of the grounds itself?
Well, I want to tell you about the building we're in.
Sure. Okay.
The event building is where, after a car did a 10,000 or 25,000 mile test, would be taken in, torn down, literally every nut and bolt.
Yeah, it looks like about a 25 bay garage.
Well, it is.
It's
7,000 square feet of garage space. Had dynamometers in there also in a separate area, and engines would be tested there till something failed.
Okay,
and then they found out why it did and made it better.
All right.
And they did the same thing with the cars. Then World War II came around, and Packard did three things in World War II. They built the Merlin engine under license with Rolls-Royce that went into the Mustangs aircraft. They built PT boat engines. 3 went in at every PT boat built, and they let the government use the property for tank testing.
Okay.
Talk about Detroit. We're on Van Dyke, right?
Sure, yeah.
11 and a half miles down the road is the Chrysler Tank Arsenal building.
Yeah.
So we get involved with World War II a little late. Rest of the world got involved in September of 1939. We get involved after the Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor. 42 is real quick, and they decide we're building tanks. They need to be tested someplace. So the government leased the property, gave it to Chrysler, and Chrysler would take tanks off the line, drive them up Van Dyke.
Yeah.
Come in the same driveway you did.
Yeah.
And do laps on the infield of the high-speed track, but then use the 18 miles of badland roads, those Belgian paving blocks, those railroad ties, those steep hills, those water baths, the clay pits. The tanks got to play in. Well, they needed to be tested just like the cars did, but they didn't have a building. So the government built this building in 1942.
Okay.
It's designed by the same guy who designed Meadowbrook Hall, but doesn't look like Meadowbrook.
No, it doesn't look quite like Meadowbrook.
So William Capp, the same architect of Meadowbrook for fancy Matilda Dodge's home near Oakland University, built this place.
Okay.
Then they rolled the Sherman M4s and other tracked vehicles that did their turn on the test track and the steep hills, and brought them in here, and they got torn down every nut and bolt.
So they came in through those bay doors.
The bay doors that were fronting us.
Doors are
bay doors over
built
there.
big enough to have tanks come in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's, on the other side of Miss America, is a tall bay where they could actually lift a Sherman M4 up off the deck and roll it the length of this 110-foot long boat.
Wow. So what are some of the things when somebody comes to the Packard Proving Grounds? What does the tour consist of, and what are they going to see? Because there's just rows and rows of cars in here.
Places,
Well, we've got all the historic buildings.
Okay.
But the buildings aren't much without a story. So we tell the story of all the world's records that were set here. For example, on opening day, Packard wants to show off their latest toy. GM had their proving grounds in 1924. Packard opens up in here in 28, but they want to show the rest of the world and the auto industry what they're up to. So they have a grand party. And during that grand party, they want to show how fast a track, the design that Albert Kahn drew, was going to make this a world record track. So they brought in two drivers that had been at the Indianapolis 500 just a few weeks before. One of them, Leon DeRay, set a new world's record at the Indy track at 122 miles an hour.
Whoa.
Yeah, big time. That record stood for, I believe, 7 years.
Okay.
So, that was a strong mark that he put up in 1928. Anyway, they bring him, he didn't win.
Oh.
So he wants to prove himself. Packard says, come on out, bring your racing partner, and let's do some fast laps. But we're going to have a nice party here. We got some dignitaries. Have some fun out there, Leon. But be careful. We don't even have the guardrails up. We're so new. I mean, this is opening day.
Be careful.
Paint's still wet out here.
Be careful. You're telling a race driver, be careful. Okay.
You know what his answer was?
Okay.
I don't need your guardrails. I won't use them today. And he goes out and he blisters the track at over 148 miles an hour.
Nice.
That record stood till 1953.
Whoa.
Packard had the world's fastest closed course race cars in the world, and they used it to good advantage.
Yeah.
So we tell that story. I think it's a great story. Packard, being the master motor builder, is building, during World War II, PT boat engines, but they're also building marine engines. And we'll talk about what I call Max, Miss America 10, because she is a maximum boat. They also were building airplane engines. They did the Mustang engine in World War II, and they did the Liberty engine for aircraft, the basis of many of Packard's engines.
Yeah, we talked about on the show that. Yeah, the Liberties,
Well, they also wanted to have the world's first diesel-powered airplane, and not because there was a government contract for it, because Packard is always striving for quality and innovativeness. They built the world's first airplane, a diesel engine, mounted in a Stinson airplane, and it flew from a hangar out here at the Proving Grounds. Set a world's record off Jacksonville Beach, Florida, for having because diesel is so fuel efficient, set a new world's record of staying aloft 84 and a half hours.
Oh my goodness.
Set a new world's record. That record wasn't broken until 1985.
Oh.
So that was over a 55-year record that was held. That plane also was the first plane to ever, where a pilot, you could talk to a pilot in flight using a radio, as opposed to the old Morse code that a pilot had to use. A diesel aircraft engine doesn't have the static electricity of rotating parts, the distributor, the electrical wires.
Versus what? When you say a diesel versus what was the
Diesel
just a regular gasoline? I mean,
diesel self-ignites.
Oh.
It fires because of compression, spontaneous combustion. So once you get it lit, and there are glow plugs, anybody who drives a diesel pickup truck knows this, that you start the engine and once it gets rolling, it just diesels.
Yeah.
So the fuel is such that once it's compressed at a high enough compression ratio, it will self-ignite, and that sips fuel. Well, that airplane engine that Packard designed set world's records, and eventually was surpassed by technology in gas engines, but still.
Well, what was the previous fuel that was preventing it from being
high octane aviation gasoline?
Okay, just all right.
But that required continuous spark from the spark plugs, always firing at every rotation. So when you're cruising at 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, all you're doing is creating static electricity, and that static electricity ball up from the engine is a shield. Is a shield preventing a weak radio signal from penetrating and the pilot hearing it. All they could hear would be the strong dit-da of a Morse code key.
Yeah, you said it was like strapped to somebody's leg. Like
right. They mounted it on their flight.
Yeah, so you'd feel the vibrations.
What's the weather like in Poughkeepsie?
Yeah, that doesn't.
I can't even spell Poughkeepsie, let alone Morse code it.
So there were all kinds of innovation stories we tell. It's not only the buildings, it's also the history of, we have 18 cars in our collection. We have PT boat engine. We have Max.
Yeah, and they're beautiful. I mean, these cars are absolutely gorgeous.
So
you just look at them in awe.
Yeah.
Man,
so
these of them here.
Is this the tour in here? Is this
this is part of the tour? Yes.
The crux of the
This
are there more cars around, or are these all the cars in here?
We own 18.
Okay.
We have a couple on loan to us from Detroit Historical Society that are really significant cars that the city owns.
Okay.
We have a 1915 Packard V12. Packard was the first automobile builder to put a V12 in an automobile.
Okay.
And the car that we have is rather special because it was owned personal car of the president of Packard, Henry B. Joy. Well, at the same time he was president of Packard, he was also president of the Lincoln Highway Association.
All right.
And the Lincoln Highway Association is the first transcontinental highway going from across the United States. It went from New York, Chicago, Omaha, Wyoming, Salt Lake City, down to San Francisco. And the vehicle that we have was used on inspection trips by Henry Joy, driving transcontinental, inspecting the road work while the highway was under construction.
Wow, that's great. So is that that red one over there?
The red one.
Yeah.
1911.
Yeah, it looks like the earliest one you got, right?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah. That one caught my eye immediately.
Well, it should.
Okay.
As bright red as it is.
Yeah.
Do you know where the Foundation Hotel is in downtown Detroit?
I do.
Okay. You know that it is a former fire station.
Yes.
That's where that flying squad truck was housed.
Right.
It's really not so much a fire truck as it is a delivery vehicle to get the firemen on site. It does carry some modest firefighting equipment, but it's really to get the crews that handle the steam pumps and things like that that were powered in 1911 out to the fire, pumping water, and this is how they got there fast.
Okay.
But there are photographs of that vehicle, 1911, sitting in front of what today is the Foundation Hotel and apparatus room restaurant.
Sure. Yeah. Love that. That's a cool place.
So we've got that, and we have one of the last cars. We have a car from 1952. It is one of 6 built, one of one of 4 still known to be existing.
Okay.
And it's owned by the city of Detroit, and it is a car called the Pan American. And these 6 cars were built to take to international car shows.
Okay.
They'd send one off to Italy or London or Germany, and they'd float around to various car shows. And the one we have is the only one that they screwed with. Some people hate it. Some people love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
What did they do to it?
Well, all cars were built identical.
Sure.
Except for this one.
All right.
And so 1952, it makes the show car circuit, makes the rounds. And they said, well, what are we going to do for 1953 or 4 or 5 or 6? Well, they let the other cars, they just change the paint color, but ship them out on the road. They brought this one back, and every other year they would change it. Add this, add that, take off this, take off that. So the car, instead of having 53 tail lights, what was ended up on the 53 car now are the 1955 and 56 tail lights.
Okay.
The front end changed. Now they've got the 55 and 56. Well, actually the 56 hooded headlights. So it became more of a, some people thought the reason they hated is, well, this is like a nice aging actress that had one too many facelifts.
Okay.
And then others say no, they like the purity of the original car. But to me, with this one, you get to see and compare what the design change was and where Packard was progressing as they were slowly going downhill, getting ready to leave Detroit.
We out of the 18 cars on site here, which one is your favorite?
Well, the 2 that I just mentioned, Tom.
Yeah.
They do. There's a number of cars here that have all different innovations. We have a display chassis behind us on the other side of Max that shows a torsion bar suspension that Packard developed for the 1955 and 56 models that hasn't been replicated since, but it gave a significantly smoother ride, better handling, better braking, all because the chassis doesn't allow the car to sway or buck or tilt back on acceleration. Well, we can see that later, but there's a lot of innovation. But those 2 cars, first car with a V12, last of the concept cars, kind of hard to beat those 2.
Yeah. I'm loving it. Are there any other like famously owned vehicles here? Or,
famously owned? Not so much famously owned, but we have a car that's directly in front of us. Actually, 2 that look to you to be almost identical.
Sure. Yeah.
They're both 1940 Packards.
All right.
They have different engines. One has a standard 8, one has a super 8. But the one that makes it really unique is the one with air conditioning.
Oh,
geez. Packard was the first automobile company to put air conditioning in a car. And that occurred in the fall introduction of 1939 on the 1940 model Packards. And we have one of those here. The air conditioning equipment, the condensers are mounted in the trunk, and the air ducts are mounted in the back seat. That's because that's where the owners sat typically.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
You know, the hired help sat up front.
Yeah.
So you had to have the
back cooled up.
Exactly.
I had
That's
no
where the
idea
owner's cabinet
they had the air conditioner that early.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
idea.
Can you, Charles, do you know of a car made today that doesn't have an air conditioner?
No, not at all.
Mine
mine's
does
not,
not on
mine's not
purpose.
working today. Yeah, me and Jane.
Maybe some exotic cars, but no. And who would ride in a car today without air conditioning?
Well, me and Jamie kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Well, I mean, mine kind of works, but a little cool air, and I don't know if it's from the air conditioner or just the fan. But
so, all right. So you'll see the buildings, and you'll see the cars in here in the, what do you call this building? Is it the garage? Or
we call this the engineering tank test building.
Okay.
To keep the history authentic, this was where the tanks were stripped down, every nut and bolt. Then, tested what was right, what was wrong, just like a Packard would have gone through. And
that's one thing you guys should get in here is a tank, man. Show how it fits right by the door.
Yeah.
Do you know how much a tank weighs?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but some of these cars are pretty heavy too.
You think as part of the history there might be a tank on site someplace, but it's probably hard to maintain it outdoors and everything.
Well, we've got a trustee who is a graduate of West Point.
Oh, okay.
He flew helicopters in Vietnam.
Okay.
He's looking for the tank.
Good. So
Okay.
it's on the wish list. It's on the
list.
wish list. Yeah.
All right.
We have a long wish list.
So
Yeah.
After this building on the tour, what does someone see?
The grounds itself. We do
Okay.
have
What's left? Yeah, out of the test track
sure.
and all the.
We have the last 7 of the original nearly 600 acres.
Mhm.
We have the last 17 acres.
Okay.
All the major buildings, the aircraft hangar that was on the infield of the test track, we picked up and moved 3/4 of a mile.
Oh, good Lord.
Well, it was important to us. I mean, it was a real piece of history. How do you tell the story of the first diesel aircraft or the other engines that Packard did for airplane testing if you don't have the building?
Yeah.
Why would we leave it out there in the field to rust away?
Sure.
So we picked it up and moved it onto our site. There's the timing stand, and we have almost 500 feet of the original test track.
Okay.
And the timing stand, 2-story timing stand, where the cars were observed under the watchful eye of the engineers that were conducting their test here at the Packard Proving Grounds.
Awesome. Well, Roger, I appreciate it. It's this is great, and we're gonna pause and we're gonna continue with the next episode of Detroit, City of Champions, and we're gonna dive into you lovingly call her Max.
Yes.
Sitting behind us, continuing our story of Garwood, Detroit City of Champions, one of the 33 championships that Charles Avison wrote wrote the books about.
And we mentioned Henry B. Joy. Henry B. Joy Jr. was one of the 33 champions of this season.
Oh,
so he's
what did Henry do?
It's a little bit of spoiler alert. So we haven't talked about it yet, but he was a 20 gauge skeet shooting champion.
Oh, okay, all right. So
yeah,
there's
it's part of
again
numerous. There's all kinds of firearm championships that are involved. There's Detroit Police pistol shooting.
Yeah.
One that had a championship, that was one of them. I mean, but it's
so
just interesting because you see Henry B. Joy's name all over the place, on roads, his name is all over the place. So,
so the Packard engines, and here's a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. So what I know is that the Miss America 9 had the Packard engines, and Miss America 10 here, the Max, the engines in there are gorgeous. But from what I understand, the Miss America 9, the government recalled those engines and use them as prototypes for those big bad boys over there that ultimately powered the PT boats of World War II.
Right. You're pointing to the PT boat engine and also very innovative engine. I don't know if you want to get into it now, but it's built specifically for minesweeper use.
All right.
And depending on the length of the minesweeper, they would use either 2 or 3 or 4 of those engines.
Good Lord.
Minesweeper.
Yeah.
And minesweepers, not to get too far off in the weeds,
no.
are all wood-hulled boats.
Okay.
Because mines are set off in the water, not by touching them as so much. That would definitely set it off, though. But they have sensors that looks for large magnetic anomalies in the water. So you don't even have to touch the mine. The mine senses a large magnetic field, blows off, and puts out a concussion shock wave that can disable a steering of the boat or crack a seam in a hull. And all of a sudden, that boat's no longer in the fight. Okay, so now you want to destroy mines, so you build minesweepers.
Diesel engines and
yes, that's part of the deal. But the wood hull of a minesweeper is important. It's not magnetic. Well, that's all well and good if, you got the silver one in the drawer, stainless steel. That's not magnetic. All the bulkheads are aluminum, probably.
Yeah.
But what do you do about the engine, the diesel, down below in the hull? You make Packard designs an engine that is all non-magnetic.
Wow.
It's brass, bronze, stainless, Monel.
And that's one of those guys over there?
That's one of those guys over there.
Nice.
Brand new, fresh out of the crate.
Nice.
Still sitting on its shipping crate, NOS. And therefore, you can now take a minesweeper pretty much with diplomatic immunity and drive through a minefield and not worry about the engines putting up a magnetic signal for the mines to detect.
And that, and so all these innovations, because with what Garwood did with his, just bigger, better, faster, and they needed those PPT boats to move, and so the government was like, "Can we see what you did to that?"
Yeah, can we?
And they used them as the
bring
prototype.
Garwood into? We need some fast boats.
Yeah,
Where are we going to ask Garwood?
Garwood, yes, the fastest boatman on the planet,
and his engine builder.
Yeah. Oh,
so
sure.
you bring Packard
There
on
you go.
board,
Yep.
and there are 3 12-cylinder engines in every Packard, and they needed aviation gas to get the horsepower to push that 83-foot boat through the water up to 55 miles an hour.
All right, so we're going to continue and we're going to pick up with Max here behind us, the Miss America 10, and more about Garwood. This was kind of a little trip down a little side road, because how important Packard is.
Unbelievable here.
Like, subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're listening to podcast stuff. Do those podcast things. We really appreciate you. Chris, as always, is chiming in. He said, Charles, $100 right now if you run and jump in the boat.
Man, we can already see in it, Chris.
We gotta wait till Roger leaves.
Yeah, we gotta wait. We're waiting for.
We'll be in there. We'll be taking a selfie in there for sure. And then Michael chiming in saying he just found our podcast. He's up to episode 15 and enjoying it. So Michael,
thank you, Michael. Appreciate you
as well, and everybody else who's listening, following along. Again, like, subscribe, leave a comment. We appreciate you. We're going to pull up the anchor for just a little bit, and then we'll be back with more of Detroit City of Champions.
Glad you guys could come out.
All right, and so I'll cut it here, and
I'm gonna grab my book real quick.
Yeah, sure. I want
to read a quote out of there. It's really cool.
Yeah, if we're
I left my coat on. It's cold in there.
It's chill.
Me too.
That's one of the major next fundraising issues is to get this place heated.
Well, you guys could sell those, man. Those Packard jackets.
Yeah.
Merchandise.
I've been trying to push for that.
Here's the thing. I work when I'm not doing this for free, like for nothing. What my I write these books, but I have a store. It's called Inspire Marketplace. It's one's inside Partridge Creek Mall. One's inside 12 Oaks Mall. We sell, Detroit themed goods. It's all artists. Each artist has their own space.
Oh, okay.
But the stuff that we sell, the stuff that sells the fastest, is stuff that's connected to Detroit for people to take. So if you guys ever wanted to sell something,
we have a gift shop.
What I'm saying, you guys could sell in there and take sell.
Charles said,
large audience.
Jimmy said, we've only got 3 paid help. And they are so busy booking weddings. We're going to do 80 weddings this year.
Awesome.
We will do another 50 corporate events. That's typical. Wow. COVID really shut us down. This building, to add the heat, first of all, the electricity to run the heat, fire suppression, leveling these floors so that we can build some really nice audio-visual displays that are interactive. $1.5 million.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is, this is what I'm trying to say though, is you literally wouldn't have to do anything except for to order them with your design, send them to the store. I'll put them out on the shelf.
Well, we'll be talking about that.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like we do large volume and we do really well at these malls. We sell them all. And if there's T-shirts or anything that you guys wanted to sell, or stickers or whatever, any kind of that's like iconic Detroit stuff goes in the store, man. So that's we have especially like Christmas season, we sell kind of this stuff. So it might be worth your guys' while. You don't have to do anything.
If you don't want anything from me for this episode,
if you want to, we'd love to have you on the show unless you're busy.
I'm giving you my day. There were some places to be late in the afternoon. But just to get a kind of a little agenda going here, do you want to photograph the cars, or how do you want to do that?
I'll go around and just kind of shoot some stuff after
Okay,
we're done. We're still rolling.
The live episode, we have a handful of people that tune in live, but then after, when Jamie will put the photos with the thing and actually put it on the archive, and then, it's just like part of our playlist, and then people get to that point, and, they're watching the whole thing.
Okay, because there are cars in here that have some pretty nifty stories.
Okay.
Maybe like a little bonus feature or something, Jamie. Yeah, but it's
Or you want to come out and do it again, or?
I can come out another time and then you and I can roll. Yeah. We can do it.
Well, you tell me what you, I mean, it's up to you. I can,
Yeah.
You really want to know, tell the story of Max.
Yeah.
That's like the next. That's the kind of the focus of the next thing because we're building up towards this episode and then like one more of the Garwood after this. Like we're gonna do this one and then the next one. Well, no, two more after this.
Okay,
But today I want to talk about the building and we're going to be talking about how this came about. That's the main focus. We're not talking about the races and all that. Just about like because where people last left off was the Miss America 9 winning against Miss England 2. In that was it 30? I think I have it written down like 30, 31 pounds worth. I don't even. I got my notes.
I want to show you something. Where's my bag?
So when we left off with there, and then the idea though was that what we're going to be starting off with is talking about because Garwood was the engines like the Rolls Royce was already pushing the horsepower on their engines, so Garwood had to add superchargers on the Miss America 9.
Right.
And then in Miss England 2, this is what we're going to pick up today, is that Miss England 2, they added, when they did the Miss England 3, they added superchargers onto their Rolls Royce engines, so Garwood had already maxed these things out to the highest degree. So that's what led to the Miss America 10. That's what we're going to be,
I'm glad you guys are doing this because in order, when we start to build our exhibits and tell stories, I want to be accurate. This stuff is here. We can't be telling stuff out of school, right?
Right.
So I've seen two different figures for the high speed of this stuff. One at 124.86 miles an hour and one at 125.4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We talked about the engines. This is information on how to attend the 1932. So here's
For sure.
There's a
On
pair.
that table? Okay, thank you.
There's an individual dock. And there, this is the.
Hey, Roger, can I just get the two of you guys to stand
You're good. Yep, that's it.
I'm sorry.
stand up and have a table?
Sure.
You guys-
That's amazing. And J. Lee Barrett was probably one of the guys who put
Maybe I
that
did.
on.
Oh, here, is this it here? There are 4 carburetors per engine, and each is a duplex, giving 8 jets per engine and 32 for the entire
Just do
boat.
this real quick for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Check.
Wait, we're gonna do this as a team here.
Thank you.
Oh, this is interesting.
It talked in here.
Do you have an extra copy of that by any chance? Or can I
You,
take a picture of
you
it?
can have this.
Oh, thank you.
I'll send you a scan. I found this paper and I bought it. And it's in our library.
That's
where
awesome.
they've done a better scan.
This is the first one I've ever seen.
Each motor is 4 years old. 2 of the 4 motors have been in 2
Yes,
wrecks.
I've got that in here. We're going to be talking about that today.
In Miss America 6, they went to the
6.
bottom in St. Clair River. That's a great story.
I already talked about it. We did the
Yeah,
whole
I know
story
you
on
did.
J. Lee
It's a great
Barrett.
story.
Yeah.
Same engines went to the bottom of Lido
In Italy. Yeah, that was
Miss
during
America
the
7.
Count Volpe Cup.
So when you said they
Yeah.
were taken back by Packard, it was after this boat was
Yeah,
built.
yeah, and they already. That's what
And so,
one of the quotes we're having here talks about. That's what he's saying. Like Vulcan designed these engines. That 2 of them had been in the bottom of the river. The other 2 had
Twice.
refit. Constantly. No, this is awesome. These are
so there's
great.
things I'm gonna you can have that, but I've got that as a scan, photograph type scan before I gave it to the folks here.
Yeah,
Because we have
400 gallons per minute. I got that. I think I got that in here too for the quote. Yeah, each engine uses 400 gallons of water. 400 gallons of water. But there's one that said how many gallons of gas you use, and it was like 5 gallons a mile. I think it was 5 gallons a mile.
no 10.
10 was it? Well, I think I'm just going off with the quote from J. Lee Barrett.
Wait. 120 gallons per hour, and I've got other documents at home. where it talks about
Well, I got to hear.
10 gallons per mile.
Well, I have it. Maybe it was per engine then, because
It was per engine.
Yeah, because he said I had it in here somewhere.
Because the quote I saw was both per engine and for the boat.
All right.
So I've just got two quotes to read, Jamie, and then we'll pick up with the next set.
I'll let
But
you
here's
guys-
here's a cartoon.
I saw that.
Did you see this? Okay, because that's when the 6 blew up.
See, we also have
It's a
some
cartoon comic. It's a
artifacts here
and
from
they win.
Garwood's factory that I picked up at auctions and just gave.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't
Like-
have the bears, do you?
No.
Somebody had them for sale. It was like 10 years ago, but I saw them for sale. And I couldn't afford them.
Well, there
$1,000.
are copies that the gals from the Algonac Historical Society bring out when they.
Yeah, I saw them, like, I think it was on eBay, the originals back like in.
God.
Yeah, it was like 10 years ago. I saw him. It was, I don't know if it was eBay or somewhere.
Apparently
Somebody said they had them for sale. It was somebody. I think it was somebody
I'll have to
related to
edit this
Garwood that was
pull these
selling them,
in.
and I'm like, I can't afford those.
It's all
Really,
good.
I want like $2,000
All
for
good.
them.
So Chris, what amazes me how big that boat is. It is, yeah. It's huge. It's long. How long? Do we have the specs? How long? How long is max? 80 feet? 38 feet? 80 feet.
10 foot wide.
30 feet, 10 foot wide. Yeah, there you go. All right. We're gonna do the second episode.
Do you have to just go somewhere real quick?
Huh?
Do you need to pop out real fast or something?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you needed a minute.
Well, no.
Okay.
Let me- I'll let you guys go. I'll be around.
You don't want to sit in on the show?
You can stay.
You can stay. We'd love to have you on the show for the second one.
You want to, yeah.
We're gonna be talking about the Miss America 10 if you want.
I mean, if you got stuff to do.
Yeah, if you want to add in any, this I'm saying, we're just gonna be talking about. I've got a couple quotes to introduce you to, but you might fill in
I
the
won't add a
gaps.
lot. I know more about this place than I know about the.
That's fine.
Okay.
And you saw me in the last
That's
show.
fine.
I was sitting there hanging out, listening to you
Okay.
talk, and you can hang
Yeah.
out with us.
Okay.
If you got
And I
anything you
just
wanna
sit and
fill
listen
in,
because I don't know anything.
Yeah, Jamie
I
chimes
just-
in with questions. If there's any questions or anything,
that's all
we're
I
just
do.
talking about,
All
really
right,
all the podcast is. We're just talking about stuff that we're.
all right, that's still recording and the video is still rolling.
I gotta get a little closer. I think.
1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
All right, we are dropping anchor again. It is Detroit City of Champions, the podcast. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
Charles Avison.
And we are telling the
Special
story.
guest with.
Oh, yeah, Roger.
Roger Luksik, Packard Proving Grounds.
Hey, Roger. People who were with us for the last episode, we really talked about the Packard Proving Grounds because we found out that Miss America 10 is here, and here we are with her. If people listen to the audio podcast and some people watch it on YouTube and on Facebook videos, we invite you to make a point of seeing this one because we are here with her within touching distance. I'm touching it, and I'm getting yelled at because they're not supposed to touch it.
No, Charles, you can touch it.
And I'm distracted too because Roger just gave me a copy of the original course race for. I've never seen it actually diagrammed. Like this is he got a copy of this when he you got a copy of it somewhere.
Well, we want to explain the items that we have on exhibit accurately.
Mhm.
Sure.
And so I'm always searching for items that I can authenticate to make sure that we tell the absolute true facts and not somebody's pipe dream.
But what's cool about this is that this is what they would have handed out to people that wanted to watch the race.
That's exactly what it is.
And so so what you're looking at is where you're allowed to sit, where if you have a boat, where you're allowed to anchor, where it's like the whole
Oh,
track.
that's great.
Yeah, it shows like the map of the the
Is
shorelines.
the Rooster Tail and Belle Isle on that? Is that
no, this is
where's
up.
this
This is on Lake St. Clair,
one? Okay.
and there's a turning point to the north at the Grosse Pointe Yacht Club,
Okay.
and then at the southern turning point would be further downriver than what would be at one time Henry B. Joy's private boathouse, but is now today the Crescent Sail Yacht Club.
Okay.
So the track is 7 miles and the race is going to be 5 laps.
Okay.
So the straights are 3 miles long each.
That's what's so awesome about this. You see it. You can see the red track. So this is Lake St. Clair.
Lake
So
St.
what this
Clair.
map is, we'll put a picture up for people to see.
Yeah.
But so because what's different about this is up until 32, this is the 32 race,
Right.
And this is the first one that the Miss America would have been in.
Right.
In the 31, all the races up to 31 were around Belle Isle.
Okay.
Right. I mean,
Correct.
that's my understanding too. And so it was around Belle Isle, and so also. That's what we're going to show that, we'll have it. But this is, if you're going to come to the race in 32 to around Lake St. Clair, this is what they would have been handing out. And it's interesting because we'll talk about it in the next episode, because we're going to be actually talk about the race itself in the next episode. But these are what you would have been handed out. And I'll bring this up in the next show.
Yeah.
These are what you would have been given. If you're like, hey, you going to the race? Yes. Here's your, this is where the seating for, and maybe it would have appeared in the newspaper even.
Well, as you say, this is a handout.
This is a handout, but maybe they would have even put this out in a newspaper at the time.
Could very well be.
Yeah.
There's a lower part of the page because they're expecting 1 million visitors.
Yeah.
And the race starts at the crack of dawn,
Yeah.
6:30.
And he talks about that in the next bit
morning.
too.
1 million people.
I have a quote about that for the next one. He actually talks about how he was feared. I'm not going to read it all in here, but he talks about how they made it early in the morning because of the weather, and they wanted to make sure that they thought it was going to be calmer that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
And he was worried though, because there's all these boats in the water, and he was like, it was raining, and there's a whole story about the morning of that race.
So there's other instructions on where the 1 million visitors can park along what is Lakeshore Drive.
Okay.
And where you're going to get parked, where you can get bussed in, and everybody's waiting for the big race.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's I mean, yeah,
1 million people.
I got a great. I wish I could read it right now, but I've got a quote for it right here in the book, and he talks about in the morning of the race and the way that J. Lee Barrett. You've read Speedboat King? Have you read the Speedboat King?
Not entirely.
Oh man, we got to get you a copy of that. I mean, it's $700. So Chris found one for like $10 somehow, but it's like one of the greatest books. And like J. Lee Barrett, he was the treasurer of the what was it the entire whatever the boat club the Speedboat Association, the Speedboat Association. He was the treasurer, so he was there, as we're going to read in this quote.
Yeah.
He was there for everything. Like he probably was the one that issued these documents.
Could very well be.
And so he was actually talking about. He's like, we were terrified in the morning of the race because we thought there was going to be a disaster because it was so rainy and there's all these boats jostling in the river and all over the place. He's like, we thought we made a huge mistake. Like there's going to be a humanitarian crisis as a result of the early start of this race because nobody could see anything. It was all in the dark and it was raining and all this. And so
Roger,
there's a whole story and that's what I'm saying. That's what's so interesting that you have this, and I really appreciate you bringing this.
No problem. He's a monster. He absorbs history.
I'm a junkie for this kind of stuff. That's connected.
Well, I saw your enthusiasm on your podcast on YouTube, and I thought,
you seem so good. Good.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
I'd like to do my homework.
Oh yeah.
It's like my mom. We got 2.
So we did
Charles.
all right so
we got
far,
3.
You're doing great.
Okay, good.
So while we were taking a little break there and getting set to do this next episode, we talked about the length of the boat is
38 feet, 10 feet wide.
10 feet wide. What else do you know about the Miss? Because we almost missed her. Renee here at the Packard Proving Grounds has been helping facilitate us, get us in here to be able to do this live here today, and we appreciate her and we appreciate everybody at the Proving Grounds letting us play here. And let
me slide in because I want to talk about. I've got a great quote for why the Miss America Boat 10 came about in the first place.
Okay,
and then so let me lay out some of the stuff that we heard for why it came about, and then we'll come back and talk
in episode
about
59 and
some of the
60.
stuff that maybe we did to fill in some of the gaps.
Sure.
That Rod, that you might know here to fill in some of these gaps.
All right, so 59 and 60, the last episodes we were talking about the Miss America 9.
Yes, the Miss America 9. It edges out the Miss England 2.
Yeah,
in the 1931 in the 1931 harms race.
But we were really outmatched. He had to pull all kinds of tricks up his sleeves, and then the fuel injectors.
Yes. So the Miss American, so the Miss England 2 was powered by these Rolls-Royce engines that had more horsepower than Packard, and it was theoretically K Don had the advantage.
Right. So what did we do? How did we get to
Garwood added superchargers to the engines to get at least to make it somewhat close for this race.
Yeah.
But so he won, of course, K-Don won the first heat of the race. And then Garwood, they came out with this, they had to rebuild the boat, tear it apart and everything. And then, of course, which is your classic, like every story is them they have to rip the entire boat apart in the middle of the night and tear it up, put it all back together in 24 hours.
Love it.
It's a footnote for this episode, but the last episode was the entire focal point.
Yeah.
But anyways, and so and then they come back out, and then they call it the Yankee trick, where Garwood is heading towards the starting line, and K-Don thinks that he's about to get beat to the starting line, so they make a dash to try to keep up with Wood. And the reality was Wood overshot the line, which Wood never did.
Right.
And then K-Don also overshot the line, which disqualified them both. They didn't know it. And then Garwood, then the Miss America 8 ends up the winner of the race, because that's the only one that's not disqualified.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So,
And his brother's driving.
his brother's driving it. And then in the course of the race, the Miss England 2 is disabled, and I think it flips upside down, or it's disabled in some way. And so it's not even able to race the final one. And then they Garwood, I believe, finishes the third heat and wins, and the Garwood's the actual name stamped on the 1931 Harmsworth. Yeah. So anyways, now we're getting to this here. So in the winter of 1931, Garwood is making repairs to Miss America 9, and he so he wants to so I have right here, on January 27th, he sped up and down the measured mile near his Florida home. So this is January 1932. Sped up and down the measured mile near his Florida home in Indian River 8 times until he broke K-Don's speed record by the slimmest of margins, 110.785 miles an hour to Don's 110.223. However, because the times were so close, a technicality led Wood to another attempt. In this case, he went 111.7196 miles an hour on February 5th to leave no debate that Garwood was once again the world's fastest man on water. So there we go with that. So here's the thing though. So K-Don comes back the next. So having recognized what Garwood did the previous year to add superchargers to his engines to be able to keep up with these Rolls Royce, do the same thing. And so they add superchargers to their engines, which now raises. So the Miss England 2 had already had a maximum capability of 1,800 horsepower, which is 3,600 combined between her two engines. The new they instead of a Miss England 2, now the new boat that's built is the Miss England 3 with the supercharged engines, and now they have a 4,000 combined max horsepower.
No fair copying.
So, yeah, so they copy Garwood. So they go from 3,600 horsepower in the Miss England 2 to 4,000 in the Miss England 3. Yeah. So now there's the engines that Garwood has in the Miss America 9 are just no longer. If they race head to head again, there's it's not going to happen.
No
it's
chance.
Over. And to emphasize that fact, on July 18th, K-Don crushed Garwood's speed record and threw down the gauntlet for the 1932 Harmsworth with a time on Loch Lomond, Scotland, of 119.81 miles an hour. So now like Miss England 3 and K-Don are like, this is over.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Between Harmsworth trophy races and the world speed records, these guys are going at it back and forth all the time.
Yes, they're going. And these two, that's what's so great about the K-Don and the Miss Englands, is they are literally going back and forth, beating each other's records and taking this thing to the next level. So Garwood's in a situation now where the engines, you can't really max out the engines anymore. Yeah. And the Miss England 3 is they can't just sit there and do nothing. And so having heard about the record breaking loss and that Don had broken the record, and also that this new boat is so vastly speed superior. So J. Lee Barrett goes to Garwood's mansion in Greyhaven, and it says right here, to break the bad news to Garwood that this boat, that he's now like, in a bad way. Right. Like you're a J. Gar, I got some bad news. It's just you're about to lose your title or whatever he was about to say to him. Yeah. But this is the quote that I wanted to read about that moment where J. Lee Barrett is going over to Garwood to tell him this bad news. Okay. I love this stuff.
Turns out to be good news.
Oh, this is great. Jay, you're gonna see it's interesting.
Where's this from?
So this is Speedboat Kings,
Okay.
Jay Lee Barrett. He's
He's
going over to Garwood to tell him the bad news that his record's been broken and that
Right.
they're missing the 3 superior and that they're in trouble and they don't know how they're going to get through the next, Harmsworth challenge because they already issued the challenge, right? And so here this is Jay Lee Barrett. I went up to see Wood at his Greyhaven home with the bad news, but I didn't get a chance to tell him. 4 other men were there besides Wood and myself, engineers from the Packard plant. Wood had one knee on the floor and was tracing at Packard for engineers was tracing for Packard engineers the shape of a new boat on the carpet with a piece of chalk. You see, men, he was saying, I want those 4 engines like this, 2 in tandem, and he indicated them, 2 banks of engines, one behind the other, 2 engines in each bank. We'll build a 38-foot hull and we'll balance it for those 4 engines. When I heard Wood talking like that, I knew he didn't need any bad news from me. He was planning to take the engines out of his Miss America 8 and 9, set them 4 engines into his new boat, not as 4 engines, but as one 24-cylinder engine on the starboard side and one 24-cylinder engine on the port side.
That's exactly how it works out.
With the crankshafts of the 2 engines on each side turning as one shaft. Wood was starting an engineering revolution. MJ Steele, one of the Packard engineers, interrupted Wood. You can't place that power in tandem, Mr. Wood. Not that way. Wood looked up at him from the carpet. Steele went on. You can't put your crankshaft directly into your gearbox. There's too much power there. But Wood said, well, we'll try it. Take my engines out of the old boats and overhaul them. Steele wanted to insert a flexible coupling on each side between the engines and the gearboxes to take up the tremendous vibration to protect the engines from cracking up. Wood said there wasn't any room for flexible couplings. We've got to save space, he told Steele. But the engineers were firm. You may as well put a bomb in an egg crate, Mr. Wood, Steele said. The first trial on that boat might kill you. I'll take that chance, Wood answered. I'll take that chance, Wood answered. The engineers rose and walked out of the place into the night. Wood went to bed. The next morning, he flew in his amphibian plane to Algonac, told Napoleon Lycée, his hull builder, his plans, and by noon, America had started to answer the Harmsworth challenge.
No, man.
The Madman's, they call this the boat the Madman's dream.
And that transmission was designed by Gar Wood.
Yes. So you're talking about it right there. He's talking about how they want to do it.
Many mechanical patents, and this was probably one of his greatest. I mean, this was going to keep him the Speedboat King.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was his goal in life.
That was
ever since he was a kid.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the fastest man on the water.
Yes. But it's so great because he's going, they're on a carpet with a piece of chalk going, okay, we're going to do this and that. And they're going, you can't do that, man. These are guys, guys that are Packard engineers that do this for a living, like every single day. They're
crazy.
They're like, that's like putting a bomb in an egg crate, and what's so great is he's like, and by noon, America had started to answer the Harmsworth challenge. Like, this is the patriotism. This is Detroit. This stuff here is the essence, the folklore of what made Detroit great. And it's like, this is the stuff that I want that has to get out.
Yeah.
And it's just, like this, and we're looking at it behind us.
And again, we'll go up there and we'll have images to go along with it of the 2 engines on both sides. There's 4
but he's
big dogs
so it's two engines strapped together with a crankshaft. He's like, we're going to take 2 engines. They're like, well, we're going to take 2 engines and strap them together. So it's one giant engine and we're going to have 2 of those.
Yeah.
We'll have visitors look at this thing and they just cannot believe it when we tell them.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of stuff our grandparents and great grandparents did.
Yeah.
Or saw when they stood on the bank of the Lake St. Clair to see these things. And it's why we are preserving the Packard Proving Grounds, and that's why we like to display Max.
And that's the thing. And it's like, and those Packard engines there are gorgeous. And it's I love the attitude is don't tell me we can't.
That's what I love it.
Tell me how I can.
That's what this is all about.
I don't want to hear you can't.
He's like, well, we'll try it.
Let's find another way.
He's like, it might kill you. He's like, yeah, well, so would walking across the street today. Let's try it.
Try it.
He's like, you can't strap 2 engines together and build 1 engine. He's like, let's try it.
I won't try it.
I got to draw. Obviously, it's possible. I have a chalk drawing on my floor and my carpet in my living room. So it's obviously possible if I'm able to draw and conceptualize it. They're like, well, that's a good point.
So, Roger, what do you know about the Miss America 10 now that Gar's just sketched it out on his carpet? And here she sits behind us.
Well, it's on loan to us. Yes. We do not own it. It is graciously displayed by Henry Mistely, longtime Detroit family. In fact, Hank's younger brother, who recently passed away, owned Miss America 9.
We've seen the video. We've
Yeah.
seen the video. We had
There was a really
we had
cool
it
news video
Yep, where he's
of
driving
him.
it, where he's
Yeah.
actually driving it.
That was remoted with some
Chevy
modern
motors,
Chevy
yeah,
engines,
yeah.
like 502s.
The thing was cruising when the videos I saw him
Yeah.
pushing that thing. He
Well,
was
you've seen the
cruising.
videos of this on from the day. There
Yeah.
are
Well, the one that Charles Misley was driving when he had restored the 9,
right.
he had that one going up and down the river, and those engines look plenty fast. Those you said the Chryslers that he had in there.
Because we almost missed. I was earlier. I said we almost missed her because
It's going out on show.
It's going out on a
Yeah, the
on a
Miss America
show.
10's traveling.
So
Algonac and that?
the 9, they drop the 9 in the water and they'll run her. Does this one fire up and run?
You know, I don't know because he takes them so far away. It's
Okay.
like,
Well, what I've
he'll
heard
be in Lake Tahoe. He'll be in New York.
Right.
So I don't get a chance to follow it around.
What I've heard about this is that they don't put it in the water, that it's so, and I can talk about that here in a second with another quote, but the difficulty was getting this thing to plane. That was one of the first race they ran in the first heat. They couldn't even get it to plane. They had to tear it apart again after we're going to talk about the next episode, but after the very first heat, they had to tear it apart because they couldn't, it was so difficult to get it to plane. So I think that it was like, I mean, this took like their entire crew just to get it to plane,
Wow.
So they're like, to get it up on its hydroplane. So like, this is not something that's you just put this in water. This is like just to get this thing going for a race.
The weight alone,
engineering feat.
The weight alone is much more than a lot of places
like
where antique boats show up.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to be near a major marina to pick this up on a travel lift.
Yeah, and they were saying that when they built
the 9 is decidedly small. Do we know how big the 9 is?
I don't know that. I know that this boat, Max, was at the time the limit was 40 feet, and they drew her at 38. So when Wood is talking about not enough room for couplings, that's because he can't make the boat much bigger.
Right. Yeah.
So he's limited.
So I have another quote here which talks about when the boat was first built, when they first built it.
Okay.
So he says, so this is again, J. Lee Barrett, of course. This is our guide through this entire story so far. He's this guy that was there.
I love this people, King Booth.
So anyways, so it was June in 1932 when I first saw the new boat that Wood had drawn up on the carpet of us that winter night. It was hanging there in its cradle at Wood's Boatwell in Algonac, Miss America 10, a finished product with 4 giant engines developing 6,400 horsepower, 2 in tandem, one behind the other. It looked to me like those 4 engines would tear that beautiful mahogany hull to slivers. The engineers had told Wood that the first trial in that boat might kill him, but that didn't stop him. Slowly, as we watched there, the new boat was lowered from its cradle and slipped into the water for the first time. Wood and Johnson stepped into the cockpit. Johnson pressed the starting button. 6,400 horsepower was loose. The boat shot like an arrow out onto the river. In less than a minute, it was out of sight, but we could still hear those engines roar. Its 16 carburetors pouring 5 gallons of gasoline into them every mile. Its 96 spark plugs clicking and firing perfectly. The boat came back in a few minutes and was again strung up in the cradle. Wood, his face still stinging from this hail of smashing spray, climbed out of the cockpit, took off his helmet from his white head, and smiled. He was satisfied, happy as a young boy who had suddenly discovered the secret of a toy puzzle. She'll do, he said. She'll do. She'll do.
Wouldn't you like to be in the throttle man seat where Orland Johnson sits?
Yeah,
it'd be amazing.
Yeah, so it's just we were talking about the gallons of gasoline. So this, he says 5 gallons of gasoline into them every mile. So maybe we're talking about talking about per bank or something.
Must be because I've heard that it was going through,
but it's still
10 gallons per mile.
Yeah, so that's a lot of gas. Like if you're going, well, I get 25 miles per gallon of this thing. You're like, well, I get 10 gallons a mile.
10 gallons a mile.
They also
10 gallons a mile.
That's a different game.
That's a whole nother. You gotta flip the math on that.
Jeez.
So in a Harmsworth race with 35 miles, he's burning almost 400 gallons.
Yeah, 400 gallons of gas
And that,
Harmsworth on one single heat too. Yeah, just going, geez, man, that's like back then. They're like, what would the environmentalists say back then? They're like, how much does that boat take it off? Like, can you make that more environmentally friendly? He's like, well, we'll work on that. We'll get to that as soon as we can. But he's
he's answering the call. Miss England 3 with 2 Rolls Royces.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we're gonna go
4 4 Packards.
That's
what
why I call her Max.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, they're maxing it out. He's like, if there was another, if there kept on being races, he would have taken it to 6, or 8. This is a man that's not going to be beaten. And so, Jay, if we can insert this picture at some point too, like this is such a great image showing like this monster, this, and it has Packard on there too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, just another quote. This is kind of the last one I'm gonna read for this, but it talks about the engines, and this is almost a poem. This is like a hymn of praise, by J. Lee Baird, and then it's so like poetic, I think. So so I'm going to read this, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about with that little clip about the engines being at the bottom of the river. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so here again, this is J. Lee Barrett, one of the great, you could say, poets of engineering that's ever spoken. So no engines in America, probably in the world, were ever driven like these Packard engines. The 2 forward engines had been used in Miss America 8. The 2 engines in the second bank had been used in 3 boats. Miss America 6, which cracked up on the St. Clair River in 1928. The Miss America 7, which cracked up in Italy in 1929. And the Miss America 9, the first boat to set an official world record of over 100 miles an hour. Those engines have history back of them. I don't know what they're made of, but I don't want to know for certain. I like to think of them as being born from the fires of Vulcan, shaped out of some strange, uncanny alchemy, never touched by human hands, and held together by some eternal fragment of stuff that knows not human disintegration. That's the way they seem to me. That's the way they will always seem. Like that's like
fires of Vulcan
from the fire. I tell you, the writing.
I know he's the greatest writer ever, man. He's like, I don't want. He's like looking out into the sunset. Like the vision. These guys like no engines in America were ever driven like these Packards. Like those are engines. Those boats were dragged up from the rivers. One was dragged up from the bottom of Lake St. Clair. One was dragged up from from Italy. Yeah. The bottoms of the Italy. It's just incredible. And then they were all fitted into this to beat the English or Miss England 3. It's awesome. I love it. That's why it's my favorite. This is my favorite. There's 33 championships during the season, and this is my favorite story of them all because it's just it's just what else do you need? Yeah. I mean, what else do you need for an incredible story? If this was seen on a movie screen somehow, through it, it would just be the greatest story.
Yeah, Chris actually said that. He's like, how is this not a movie yet?
Exactly. Exactly.
It needs to be.
This is America. This is America. You got these people that are pushing the limits. They're pushing, they're pushing like.
Don't tell me I can't. Just tell me.
And when it's all said and done, what does he get out of this? They're spending millions of dollars on this stuff
just to have fun.
They're just to hold this Harmsworth trophy, this bronze Harmsworth. Like that's what it's all about. They're risking their lives. Orland Johnson had nearly died twice. Had his jugular slit. Had smashed down face first in Italy after dropping like 50 feet from the sky from the boat exploding. Like these people are risking life. And people at Seagrave did die. Like they're just, and so, there's all, there's for what? For a bronze trophy? No, because this is the human experience. This is why do we want to go to the moon? Why do we want to explore new areas? Why do we want to always push it around us? Because this is the essence of human beings, pushing the boundaries. Using, always trying something new and trying to expand our horizons and take it to the next level, and like to say these are quintessential Americans in a quintessential American city of Detroit in its glory.
Yeah. You couldn't do this in any other town in America.
No. But not this specific story. Yeah,
we had all the industry behind him.
Yeah, and he's taken on Rolls Royce. He's taken on the Admiralty, the British Admiralty, and they're the masters of the seas. We're taking on the British. Like we refuse to let those Yanks have the speed on water. We need that. The Rolls Royce. They got the Wakefield, who's got an oil baron. So they got everything they need. They got a World War I ace, pilot, hero. They got everything they need to win. But Detroit and Garwood and in Packard and the industry, they say no, they're not. This is our trophy and we want it. We like it here.
We're keeping it.
Yeah. It was that's what I'm saying. It was not just a competition for a piece of brass.
Sure.
This is a competition. This was what people I guess it's like it kind of ties into the very essence of maybe, what Detroit used to be, what Detroit is, the vestiges of what Detroit is, but maybe it's tougher to see in that essence of civic pride, that essence of, American pride, and, and the pride of like, that spirit of competition, and like, this is who we are.
Roger, is there anything else about the boat that you can share with us? Do you know anything about the wood?
Mahogany.
It's
Philippine mahogany. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe carries a 600-gallon gas tank.
Okay.
The engines I've seen, they mainly talk about 1,600 horsepower per engine, so a total of 6,400 horsepower. But then there are other reports that with finer tuning and different fuels, that they increase the horsepower to as much as 2,000.
Well, that's the initial.
Right,
this is the initial. There's no doubt that they could have supercharged it, tweaked it.
Yeah.
It's just it's a very impressive object in the collection that we exhibit. We get so many compliments about the boat, and
well, the fact that it's still here, this is a massive piece. This is not like a museum piece where you have like a jar that's like, oh, this was from the 5th dynasty of such and such. This thing is massive. Like, the fact that there's space to have it and to hold it, since this time. That's impressive.
If the people that are, if you, like I said, it's definitely worth, if you're listening to the audio podcast, to find the video version. And it's just the finish on it, it is astounding. Just how
furniture quality.
Yeah.
You won't find a finish.
Well, I saw there is a video about Garwood describing the Miss
I'm
America
going to find
10.
that.
We've got to find it. Yeah.
Into this.
The last, I got a copy of it from the museum in Algonac, from the Garwood Historical Museum in Algonac. And I have it somewhere. I just haven't been able to find it.
And you've said the quote a few times.
Yeah, and Garwood is standing in front of the Miss America 10. It's a black and just like this. It's a black and white video, but because it's black and white, the mahogany is like a really dark behind him. And what he says is so cool. He's like, he says, this is so polished to such an aerodynamic finish. Like the way he describes it is so amazing. He's like that if a fly landed on this, it would break its leg. He actually says that. It goes, if a fly landed on it, it would break his leg.
That's great.
Garwood was awesome, man.
Was my Maya brothers up in Algonac. So it was done at the hometown. It was where it was built originally, and they take great pride up at that boat.
Who did it? Where was it before it was restored?
I heard, and I don't know this for a fact. So that at one time was in the Bill Harrah collection in Nevada.
Really, it made it all the way out. It went out west for a little while.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't much in the way of harms with racing after 1937. And folks like Bill Harrah would be typical for him to buy something like this for his collection. He had the world's largest auto collection.
Okay, I get you. I can see that. Yeah,
and he had a lot of Packards in his collection. And you're near Lake Tahoe, why not? And
Sure.
Bill has a large collection of boats. Thunderbird on Lake Tahoe.
See, that's what's one of the important things about collectors too, is that a lot of times it's the collectors that keep it from one generation to the next.
They recognize the
preserve
importance.
It. Absolutely. That's what I mean. Like, people that's why history is important, and telling the stories and that, because it helps to make these things important enough to want to keep.
Well, that's why we're grateful the Mistily family did this.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. I'm glad that they lend it here and put it on display for people to see, and I'm glad. I appreciate
and if
Roger
it's
and
go
everybody
on,
here at the Packard Grounds for having us in.
And if it's going to go on tour, it's going to go.
It leaves.
Yeah.
So
it does.
You've got to catch the timing right.
But if
make an appointment, come out and see it.
But if it's going to go anywhere, you said it's going out to Algonac for some of their stuff they do out there, which is not a bad. I mean, if it's going to go somewhere, you got to be at least happy it's going back out to Algonac a little bit, which is like
I've seen it in Port Huron at a show, but generally he's taken it long distance.
Yeah.
Canada, New York, California, Lake Tahoe, all the big
But that's another thing too, is that it's good for it because it brings out some of that history. It gets other people potentially
get to see it
in it.
Yeah, for themselves.
Sure. Maybe even some of our viewers are like, we have some Canadian viewers and listeners of the show. They're gonna like, hey, send us the tour. We want to check it out when it is on that tour. They'll check it out at whatever show it's at. Do they have it? Do you know if they have like an
I don't have a
advertising
schedule
for his? Okay. Do you know where they actually where they put the schedule up when if it comes? You know, if
It
there's,
would
like, a
probably
website?
be on the Anti-Classic Boat Association of
Yeah.
America.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Awesome. All right.
it's been-
Where are we going to pick up the story next?
Yeah. So next week, we're just talking about the sort of the genesis of the Miss America 10, which is appropriate for us
Sitting here with
it.
Oh.
The next show we're gonna get into the 32 race.
Okay.
It'll give me a little chance to digest this.
The
document that Roger gave us,
Yeah,
which is
that's,
awesome. It shows the map of the track and everything.
We found something new. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, I love finding. I'm a total junkie for this kind of stuff. And so anyways, it'll give it. So we're gonna be talking about in the next episode. The 32 race. We're gonna and then we'll wrap up. We have really 2 more episodes to go with Garwood. The next one's the 32 race, and then the final episode we're gonna sort of do like an overall Garwood wrap up.
Awesome.
We got to talk about when you're going to talk about that he sets the world speed record that lasts for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, no, we're talking about it's we'll be talking about it on
Yeah.
here. I've got it. I mean, that's what he does. He does break it. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
So that's when the boat hits the water.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think once he hits the water and starts to take, because there's a bunch of issues that came about before, like there's so much to get into about the race itself.
Right.
And because he's not letting K down that record.
that-
When he bits this thing out, he don't think he's gonna go, well, we'll just wait to the race and see how she does.
Yeah.
No, he wants to show this thing off with some speed.
All right. Once again, Roger, everybody here at the Packard Proving Grounds, thanks for having us, letting us invade your space.
Glad you could come out and
and
visit
do
us.
this and see the Miss America. And Charles, thank you for all your work.
Love it. We love
on
doing this, man.
Everybody who's listening, go ahead, like, subscribe, tell a couple friends, 2, 3, 100, whatever it takes. Tell a couple people about the podcast and like, subscribe, and all those things that you do. Thanks again. And we're going to pull up the anchor, and we'll see you again next time on Detroit, City of Champions. All right.
That was painless.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun.